here. I'm glad you're here with me. Appreciate it so much. First, I want to start with thank yous. Obviously, a very long list of folks that have worked with me, inspired me, supported me, criticized me in a way that made me want to do better. I'm very grateful for all of you. Of course, first on the list is my family. They're not big into disc golf, but they let me be big into disc golf, and it's infinitely generous of them, all the time that they've allowed me to put into this. I want to call out some close friends and often and frequent co-conspirators on some of my projects, in particular Ross Hammond, who's here tonight. Thank you, Ross. Conrad Damon, my best pal, who's worked close with me on all our projects, and Sean Mercy, also a very good friend who I've had the privilege of working closely with. I also want to thank all the folks that have just been part of what I do. All the players and customers and fans and park staff, community members, just the folks who have expressed their enthusiasm, reflected it back to me, and that's my fuel, right? I'm doing what I do, and when people tell me that it makes them happy, hell yeah, I'm gonna do more, right? And lacking that, I'm not doing it. So I love that continuous rhythm. I have an idea, it brings people joy, and they reflect that back to me, and I'm gonna keep on going. I also want to, after my thanks, I want to apologize to a long list of people. In fact, hundreds of people. In particular, the volunteers that have also worked very closely with me on a lot of these projects, side by side often. I imagine they were probably doing their very best, but I'm somewhat of an obsessive perfectionist, and maybe they felt the judgment when I was kind of looking out the corner of my eye and thinking, I'm not sure that green's ready yet. I still see 2 sticks within C1. I'm not sure we meant to give away more than 100 discs to the kids today. I kind of wanted to keep a few, and I thought we talked about that. When we put the discs out for my huge store, I've got 10,000 discs in my mobile store. It's kind of insane, and so I get help with that. And sometimes they think J comes after K in the alphabet. And I guess that's okay, and I want to apologize to them for not being obsessively perfectionist like I am, and actually making a huge impact in everything I do. So, but that's kind of why I'm here, right? That's kind of the personality I have, and that's getting this honor. I think about, how did this happen, right? How did this happen? Who am I to deserve something like this? How did I end up accomplishing enough that somebody thought I was worthy of this recognition? And I think when I think about it, I don't think of myself as, I know that some of the things I've done were pioneering, but I never took it on for that reason. I never thought, oh, I'm gonna do something that years from now I look back on and everybody's gonna remember how important it was in the history of something. Nothing like that. Or even the cumulative effect of, all these things over time will add up to an amazing number of accomplishments. Never. It was always, I see something that seems to be, to my mind, right in front of me, just begging to be done. A tournament that could be started, a course that maybe could be proposed, an idea about how to organize a shop that maybe would be more fun to shop in. Those things are just there for me, and I'm so intense about wanting to do those things, I can't help myself, right? And so that's my motivation, is just, here's an opportunity that seems to be yelling at me, please come do this, and then I go do that. As I've gotten older, maybe I've started to recognize, wow, these things are adding up, aren't they? And that's kind of cool, but it still doesn't change. Day to day, I'm still just fired up about the individual things. Part of how I think about how I got here too is, I don't see myself as a what's the phrase? Work smarter, not harder. I think I'm kind of the opposite. I try to be smart. I do my best there, but I always feel like I'm not very good at that part. But I always am so stubborn when I see an opportunity. I have an idea. Wouldn't it be great if? I know that I will put the energy in, and I will work as hard as possible to get that done. And so sometimes I overcommit and all those kinds of things, but I always lean hard on the work, I guess you would call it then, work harder, not smarter approach. And that's a big part of how I got here. So, I want to call out a couple of examples of how these things presented themselves. So it wasn't my idea to run a big regional series, the NorCal series, right? That started with Mike Travers and Charlie Callahan. They were the first ones to think of the NorCal series. A couple years later, Mike and Michelle Cousins had the same idea, unaware of the first folks, to do a series of regional tournaments and maybe on a larger scale. And they whispered in my ear, they said, "Leonard, wouldn't it be nice if?" And I said, "Oh yeah, I'm all in," right? Later when somebody came along and said, "Wouldn't it be nice if we had a disc golf course in Golden Gate Park?" I said, "Yeah, it would. I'm all in," right? A few years later, somebody came along and said, "Hey, wouldn't it be nice if we designed a course at Glen Eagles in San Francisco and brought the pro tour here?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm all in," right? And so those are kind of the big ones in terms of my resume. That's nice. But the day-to-day stuff, I just want to give an example, and this is tedious, and so I won't give you the whole list because it's seriously insane, right? So right before flying to Charlotte Monday evening, and in the 4 days preceding that, I did on Thursday night, after my 9-to-5 job, I drove 4 hours round trip to do a safety assessment presentation to a community group about a course that had an accident. Okay, there was that. Friday morning, I got up really early to go get a new set of baskets because that weekend I had to have 2 sets of 18 portable baskets at 2 different events. And I knew that moment was coming, so I bought them just in time. And I had 2 trailers to go 2 different places to support 2 different events on the weekend that I'd be selling, both 2-day events that I'd be selling at each one, both of which I either designed or co-designed. Trailers flying all around the Bay Area every which way. And then no sleep, let's just make that clear. Literally 2 hours on average, 5 nights in a row. Because I had an idea, I wanted to get these things done, and it was completely unreasonable, and I didn't care. I figured I'd just throw some energy at it. So then finally on Monday morning, I drove 3.5 hours with my trailer out to the coast to drop off the portable course that's now going to be used this coming weekend. I won't be there yet, so that I could drive all the way back to San Francisco and get on a plane with Ross by, I guess our cab was 11:30, I got there 11:40, I didn't miss too bad. 7 hours of driving in order to get on a plane. So this is the insanity that's just routine for me, and this is why I definitely should have I did start with thanking my family, because you can imagine what it must be like for them. Kind of nuts. I love you guys. All right, finally, I just got one more thing to say. As soon as I'm actually going to go back to my notes now. So I was kind of talking about how I got here in terms of the things I've done, but then now let me talk briefly about what this honor means to me. I also am very much inspired by Dan Roddick. He's my favorite mentor in the sport, just such a wonderful person and human. And so I'm happy that there was an important moment in my Frisbee life that now kind of makes me think of that, like this situation. So Chris will appreciate this one as well. So we used to throw MTA at Benson School as part of the big US Open, which as a competitor, that was sort of my heyday as a player. And I remember out there warming up, and if you've been an MTA competitor, the warm-ups were so fun because every now and then somebody would hit one, and then everybody would stop for a moment and just watch, and the disc would sail just beautifully across the sky, and you'd see them sprinting across the field to make the catch. You're like, wow. And then, you get your practice, and then there goes another one. And there was a moment there, and I was 4 or 5 years into competing, that I saw this happening over and over, and then I thought to myself, my gosh, I'm competing, I'm beating a lot of these people. wait, I guess that was the first time, because I'd already done pretty decently in competition, but it hadn't sunk into me. I think I'm pretty good at this. And now, that pales in comparison. I think about the folks that are in the Hall of Fame, and oh my goodness, I mean, what have I done? How could I possibly be worthy of this? But I guess folks think I am, and this is my Benson School moment of, I guess I've done good. Thank you so much.
Yeah, we said quiet determination and